Hi, and welcome to the Painted Lady Coaching. I'm Amanda Douglas, and I'm your healing bestie, here to help you alchemize your trauma and help you have healthier, happier, thriving relationships. This video's topic is going to be basically all about personal identity, reclaiming it after narcissistic abuse and how that happens and how to claim it back. A very common side effect of being in a relationship with a narcissist is losing your sense of identity. And it happens so insidiously and so subtly over time that when you are finally outside of that relationship, it really dawns on you like how serious that this loss of identity has occurred. And you just kind of feel lost and confused and just really disconnected from who you are as a person and what you really care about doing and what you want to do and just all of the things. And reclaiming your identity is such an important part to your healing process because it's not just simply about knowing who you are, it's also about just rebuilding your sense of self-worth and self-trust and autonomy. During the narcissistic abuse cycle, your sense of identity is entirely stripped away from you slowly but surely through controlling and devaluing and just all in all reshaping your sense of reality to the point where it just kind of leaves this impression of an identity crisis once you're completely out of their grip. Before you even really start to dive deep into the healing process and reclaiming your identity, it's really important to recognize and acknowledge all of the emotional and mental and psychological abuse that was endured, and to not just simply blame yourself, but to also understand how these dynamics affected you and caused your sense of self to be suppressed. And part of the healing journey is unfortunately going through feelings of guilt, confusion, and blame. And while it may feel like you are entirely losing it, I promise you you're not alone, and it's entirely common. So a helpful part of this process is to kind of go deep into the self-awareness, asking yourself who you were before the abuse and just reflecting on that. So a lot of journaling is very important during this time as well. You want to ask yourself questions like, what were your passions and interests and values? What activities and hobbies brought you joy or still bring you joy? How do you view yourself overall and your abilities? Dive deep into your strengths and your interests, your dreams, and everything that you love about yourself and that you admire about yourself. This really helps to kind of just ignite the connection with who you once were before the abuse. Now, granted, reconnecting with who you were before you got with this person does not mean that we should entirely ignore who you have become, because who you have become is also a very critical part of you and your story. And while it feels like trauma may have shaped you into another person, that doesn't entirely feel good in the moment, but it can be a catalyst for growth. You're now able to walk into this era of your life of creating a whole new person that is a lot wiser and stronger and smarter and has a whole other just arsenal of knowledge. You may or may not be in a place to hear that, but I really do feel like that was the truth of it for me. And while I really just felt so awful just because I really did lose that connection with myself, I did take that as an opportunity to really rebrand. And I took that as an opportunity to really have a fresh start at taking control or just taking back my life and really start living my own life. And honestly, it's wild because it's just after dealing with what was maybe by far the scariest thing that I had done and been involved in, it's yeah, I don't think I have anything to be scared of. I've survived that asshole. I can survive anything. So take that and do with that what you will. The next thing you can do is start to reclaim your core values. And values is probably something you're going to hear me talk about a lot, and it's very central to the work that I do. especially when the work is around recovering narcissistic abuse. So you will often come to terms with the fact that your values were just kind of contorted, bent, and reshaped just to really fit around the said narcissist and just to fit their needs and demands. This just results in losing touch with what matters to you. I have a link to a card sort in the description, and that would be an absolute perfect way to sit and analyze what your top 5 to 10 values are. And you can print them out, or if you don't even want to print them out, you can always just scroll through the document and just write down, like in a notebook. You could write very important, important, not important, and you're going to rank these values into these different categories. Now, we're going to forget about the ones that are not important, and then we're going to take the ones that are very important and narrow them down. And now, if you want, you can also just take the ones that are very important and narrow those down. And now, once you get down to your 5 to 10 values, you're not going to compromise on those ever at all in any situation for any reason here on out. Okay? Because when we live in alignment with our values, like, we are living an aligned and authentic life. And when we do that, it helps to weed out the bullshit so much quicker, and just anything that is not for us that much quicker. Now, another thing that you can do just to further assess and reflect is to take a look at these values and see which ones were maybe honored or suppressed during the time of your relationship with said person. So we can stay connected to those values by making sure that we make aligned choices and just stay in aligned action with those values. This does help build trust in yourself over time and lets you know where to set your boundaries, and that also helps to protect your identity. That's why I say values and boundary work is key. Faux show. And with boundaries, narcissists often have no issues violating those, and we've definitely gone pretty in depth with boundaries in a previous video. But once we get really good and really strong at defining and asserting those boundaries, we protect ourselves and our identity, and it does just keep everybody safe. So with different types of boundaries, there's some that I specifically want to touch on, especially with like emotional, physical, and mental. Learn to protect your emotional boundaries and your feelings and your needs by not allowing anyone to dictate how you should feel or react. And with physical boundaries, reclaim your personal space, body, and energy, and recognize when it's okay to say no to certain interactions, especially when you're uncomfortable. And if you're still in the process of learning of how to enforce your boundaries, practice small steps and give yourself grace when you make mistakes. Over time, you will reinforce your sense of self and autonomy by getting good at this work. Now, rediscovering personal interests and passions. It's not uncommon that said narcissist will belittle or discourage whatever your interests are, because if it exists outside of their control or it's a threat to them in any way, then they will often basically find a way to shame you for it, and just so that way you will just give up hobbies and friendships and activities that once defined you. And if not friendships, just certain like connections, whether it be like professional or personal. So I would say just like start getting into old and new interests. Sign up for classes, try new hobbies, or return to activities that you maybe possibly just used to like. And this is when I would kind of utilize journaling again. You can jot down anything that is like old or new that sounds great to get into or that you've been wanting to get into, and then pay attention to how each one makes you feel. Do you feel joy or peace or excitement? Do you feel neutral? Do you not feel enthusiastic about it? All of it matters. All of it will tell you something. Above all, just allow yourself to connect with anything that truly resonates. And if you're anything like me, you probably find healing through a lot of creative outlets. Art, music, writing, dance, all of that is great. I would say writing for me was one, especially painting shoes. Custom painting shoes is another one. And one that I kind of fell out with, unfortunately, but I feel like I'm starting to kind of get the spark again, was custom tumbler making. And because that was something that I did during the course of the relationship and just got completely burnt out from it. I think I didn't want to touch it for quite some time, but recently I've been feeling the love. So hopefully I can get back to that and just see how it goes. And roller skating was another one that I got back into. I had not done roller skating since maybe I was like of the preteen age. Maybe. I just feel like it had been such a long time since I'd done roller skating. But then I got back into it again and got myself a pair of roller skates for my birthday, the following year that I left him, and it was really dope. So like, yeah, just getting yourself into like something like creatively expressive, or like just something to like kind of get your body moving is all great. So rebuilding your self-esteem and your confidence. The constant criticism or comparisons or emotional manipulation, how this gets just worn down and eroded over time. So you get a distorted self-image and overall lack of confidence. I really did like daily affirmations during this time in my life, and just kind of like writing them down or saying it to myself, like when I looked into a mirror, and just kind of letting myself like know that I'm worthy, that I'm a badass and I'm strong and I'm capable, and all of the things that felt good to say to myself. And also just reminding myself in ways that is 100% true. And sometimes even while like I'm doing my hair and my makeup is another way that's especially helpful to say those affirmations. And then also celebrating small wins. That's another one that I do emphasize a lot, is like just celebrating the small moments. Like I don't really believe in there's ever like a moment too small. And especially because it's like if you don't take the time to really recognize the small little growth and like progressions, I just feel like what is good enough then? So you have to take appreciation in the small stuff. So even like in the bigger stuff, like the gratitude is immense. So taking a moment for gratitude whenever you can find something to feel grateful, gratitude is so important, especially to call in the bigger and the better blessings. Like gratitude is so vital. And another one you're gonna hear me talk about a lot, self-compassion. Give yourself the grace all the time, at every moment. You're still learning, and that is okay. You're learning and you're healing. It's all good. So reclaiming independence. So likely you probably had someone that tried to create this whole like induced dependency, just creating a cycle where you're having to rely on them, especially for like validation and approval. When we say like reclaiming independence is largely trusting yourself and meeting your own emotional needs. So learning to be comfortable with the solitude and enjoying your own company. I've always kind of felt like I was someone who enjoyed my own company, especially like over the other company that I had. I definitely enjoyed my peace. And then I think once I actually left, I feel like I almost became too comfortable with my own company and my own solitude, because considering what I had been through, I feel like it took me a while to really be comfortable with the idea of dating, just because I really did. I liked my company and my space a lot at this point. So reconnecting with yourself and just enjoying your own company just helps you to rebuild your sense of autonomy, and then get comfortable with making decisions without seeking external validation, and just moving on what feels good to you. And also start taking small risks that just involve you having to trust yourself. And again, it's like you don't have to do anything super wild, just something like, if maybe switching up your exercising habits, commit to that, or like a class or something that is just like a small risk, so then that way you can start to gain the confidence to go a little bit more. And also just getting really cool with just managing your time or your finances or responsibilities without needing to feel like taking direction from other people on what you should do. All right, and then rebuilding healthy relationships. It is definitely difficult trusting others after abuse. There's no confusion about that. When you're building your support networks, it's also important to closely evaluate the people in your life to determine if these are healthy and supportive people that you want to keep in your life. Because trust me, I definitely had to distance myself from a few people, and that's okay. You want to keep people close to you that are going to honor and respect your boundaries and your values. There's a saying that I think most of us have heard, and it's you are 5 of your closest friends. So you want those people that are around you to be people that are going to be conducive to your growth. So you may want to consider letting go of any relationships that play out any similar toxic dynamics, or people that may have had ties to the person that was your abuser. They may keep you stuck in patterns of manipulation and self-doubt. And then you can gradually open yourself up. To new and healthy relationships by practicing vulnerability and communication at your own pace. So you also want to start to form new beliefs and new thought patterns and new personal narratives. So oftentimes it gets kind of like ingrained into us that we are maybe inadequate or unworthy. We take our power back by writing a new narrative, and we want to write this narrative, this internal narrative, from a place of empowerment. And one way to kind of assess your limiting beliefs that you may hold about yourself is to write down all of the beliefs that you have about yourself, and maybe take a look at which ones may be shaped by the said narcissist, or just really any of the negative beliefs that you may hold about yourself. And then you want to look for evidence for each of these negative beliefs that would prove that it's false, okay? And then once you do that, I want you to replace it with a new belief, a more positive belief, which is likely the opposite of that belief. Also ask yourself, what would be the benefit and what would your life look like if you decided to adopt this new belief about yourself? How would you live your life differently if you decided right now, right here in this moment, to choose the new belief instead? Next level shit, baby. Your identity will evolve as you heal, and be open to just changing your beliefs and goals and desires as you reconnect with who you are. Reclaiming your new identity takes time, and that's okay. It's going to take patience and effort, and it's okay if you don't have all the answers right away. Self-discovery is a lifelong journey anyway, and you have the strength and empowerment to reclaim yourselves and just create a whole new, empowered version of who you want to be. As always, reach out to your resources, therapy, self-help books, support groups, self-development media, and coaches like myself to help you rediscover your personal identity. I am a relationship and narcissistic abuse recovery coach. Check the description or DM me for one-on-ones, and we can book a free consultation, see how we can work together. And with that said, I'm glad you're here, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.